Hi, this is Karin Wiener from The New Wheel. Congratulations on your new Stromer. This bike is fast, it's fun, and it doesn't just amplify your speed, it amplifies your fun in life. You're gonna love it. Let me tell you a little bit about how it works and how you're gonna use it, just to get you out on the road as quickly and seamlessly as possible. First things first, turning the bike on. The on-off button is hidden underneath the top tube, just underneath the console. You give it one push and it takes about 10 seconds or so for the bike to boot up. And it'll just say Stromer while that happens. You'll do that in the morning, and then it's very possible that you don't do it until the evening, because this bike was designed to be in standby. The levels of assistance are controlled with your plus and minus buttons on your left thumb. Your lights have a high beam and low beam. And then, of course, you've got this nice little horn so that people know where you are. When you're riding, you will become very comfortable with changing levels of assist. And a really neat feature of this bike is that it has regenerative braking. Regenerative braking is engaged every time you pull one of your brakes. So just the action of pulling your brake stops the motor from being a motor and starts it being essentially a dynamo. It gives you resistance as you pull the brake about halfway, and then you feel the brake pads hit the rotor. So that's one way to use the regenerative braking. Or if you're going down a very, very steep hill, you can engage regenerative braking by holding down the minus button for 3 seconds, and you go into recoup. When you do that, you'll notice on the screen it says recoup, and there are 5 left pointing arrows. The more arrows that are illuminated, the harder regen will be on. So if all 5 are lit, it's almost impossible to ride the bike. Even down a steep hill, it's an insane amount of resistance. You change that again with the minus and plus buttons. This time, minus adds more regen, and plus takes regen away. There are 2 ways to break out of that mode. The first is by holding down the plus button for 2 seconds, and the other is by coming to a complete stop. The bike will automatically come out of regen and be in its original level of assist when you start to ride again. The screen is a touch screen, and that will toggle you through different trip information. I really like the default, which is this screen. It tells you your speed, your battery level, and your level of assist. But you can also click through and get a clock and trip speed average, and trip distance and trip time. These are all kind of good options if you need them. If you push the main power button a second time, and it brings you into the main menu. The first is a locking option. You'd push this, and this puts the bike in its standby locked position, which means that if the bike is moved, after about 5 to 10 feet, it will lock and the lights will begin to flash, and you'll get a message on your phone saying the bike has been moved and potentially stolen. It also, that can trigger theft mode, which is very cool, a really neat function of this bike. You'd also turn the bike off in this menu by pushing the off button. The next option is a move option. And that is basically a walk throttle. You can change how fast the bike walks by pushing the plus button on the thumb controller to make it a quick walk or a slow walk. And then to engage, you hold down the plus button. The next option is the sensor option. On occasion, the torque sensor can go off on this bike. What you'll notice is the bike maybe feels a little bit sluggish or over-responsive. When you recalibrate, you select this button. It asks you to please relieve pedals and confirm with OK, which means that you don't want to have your feet on the pedals to recalibrate the torque sensor. Then you're recalibrated. So it's just like recalibrating a scale to a 0 point. In that screen, you can also change sensitivity of the bike. Your bike always has 3 levels of assistance, but it's sort of like you can move those 3 levels up into an easier spectrum or down into a work harder, harder spectrum. And you do that by selecting minus or plus. We like it nice and high. then you push OK. Next is the bike menu. Menu gets you into all sorts of detailed information. For example, information on the bike would include odometer, trips reset, information like that. And the last button is eject, which allows you to remove the battery. To remove the battery, you push eject and you'll hear a clicking noise. And then you push this button right away, and that allows the battery to come right out. The battery on the bike can be charged on-board or off-board. There's an on-board charging port just opposite of the battery removal button. Or you can remove the battery from the bike and plug into the bottom of the battery. This is the charge port. That's where you'd plug the battery in. And this plastic bezel is sturdy, but if you drop the full weight of the battery against this, it can break, so be careful of that. To reseat the battery, keep this side up, sticker up, slide the battery along the door into the compartment, and then by pushing on the outside of the door, the battery will simply seat itself and lock shut. Your Stromer charger is simple to use and can be plugged into the frame or directly into the battery, depending on what's more functional and useful in your life. This side of the charger goes into the wall, obviously, and then this side goes into the charge port. Now, one of the features of this bike and the design is that you'll notice that there's a magnetic sensitivity to how the plug goes in. It's a great setup. There's one thing to know about it, and that is that it's possible for magnetic dust to get stuck in the charger, which can, or in the port on the bike, and that can cause disruptions in charging. So I recommend storing your charger not on the floor ideally, maybe on a shelf or on a table. And if you ever have an issue charging, first thing to do is to check both the surface of the charger and the surface that you're plugging into. The charger has lights on it, 2 lights on it. Basically, you can read all the details on the back of the charger, but the important thing to know is that when the charge cycle is completing, it will be blinking green, and then when it's finished, it's a solid green. Like all lithium-ion batteries, there are best practices. Unplug the battery from the charger after it's done charging. You want to make sure that you never leave the battery on a charger for more than 24 hours for its overall health. Charge it at room temperature. Charging in direct sunlight or super hot contexts is not good, and charging in really cold garages or freezing temperatures is also not good for the battery. The service intervals on a Stromer are actually really long, and that's due to the fact that you've got regenerative braking that really save your brake pads and a rear hub drive bike that really is just super easy on the chain and makes it so the drivetrain lasts for a long time. That being said, the bike comes with 2 things: 6 months of service, complimentary service at the new wheel for tune-ups, and a 2-year warranty.